All right, sexual follies. So, campus rape, okay? I don't mean to make any jokes about rape. It's the second most heinous crime there is, and it's a heinous crime for the simple reason that it takes away a person's right to make decisions, the most personal, intimate decisions she can make, and it is an offense against the soul. It's an actual crime, a soul crime. But Barack Obama issued a Dear Colleague letter to universities, any university that took any money at all from the federal government, which includes student loans, by the way. So that leaves basically Hillsdale College as the only college in the country that is immune from bullying from the federal government. And Obama sent out this Dear Colleague letter saying, you have got to take care of sexual harassment, and you have to give a right to an appeal to not just to the person who's accused, but to the accuser, on and on. Basically set up these kangaroo courts where a boy, if he was accused of rape, his career was over, and he had to get a lawyer, he had to sue if he was going to reestablish himself. It's a terrible thing. I mean, to be accused of rape or even just sexual harassment, it's a terrible thing to happen to a young man. And people lie. People sexually harass, and people lie. So those are things that people do, and you have to have a court of law to determine which is happening in any given situation, right? That's reality. That's realism. So Betsy DeVos, who is one of the best members of the Trump administration, she's the education lady, she rescinded the letter basically saying, come on, these people have right to due process. That's a constitutional right, due process. That means when you get accused of what is a crime like rape or even sexual harassment, you have a right to a trial. You have a right to go before a judge and a jury and have all the protections that provides, not some kangaroo court, okay? So I want to just read two things. The New York Times, a former newspaper, has one thing that I really like. It has a thing called right left or left right or whatever it's called, where they just give you a very quick rundown of the reactions to something from the right and the left. Basically, and they go to good people, intelligent people, and get their little comments and talk about what they said. I just want to give you the difference between how the right reacts to something and how the left reacts. And this is chosen by the New York Times, so it's not me, right? This is the New York Times, a former newspaper, one of the biggest leftist rags in the country, choosing right and left opinions. So first is from the right, David French in National Review. Our campuses are not exempt from the Constitution. There is no excuse for government-mandated kangaroo courts in any part of American life, especially in America's institutions of higher learning. Ash Show in The Federalist. If today's activists think due process is so terrible, what would stop them from working to remove it from our courts? In other words, if you remove it from the universities, why wouldn't you then move on to remove it from the courts so that if you're accused of rape, you don't have the right to a fair trial? Carol Markovitz in the New York Post. In a few cases, the accused may actually be guilty, but gets off because his rights were violated by a school. Why even have schools get involved in criminal matters in the first place? All of these careful, measured, intelligent things dealing with the law, dealing with people's rights, dealing with all the things that hold America up and make America what it is, which is not letting in illegal immigrants. It's actually this. It's actually the rule of law. Now listen to the stuff from the left, okay? Lucia Graves in The Guardian. The sexually accused are overwhelmingly male, overwhelmingly white, and presumably entitled. In other words, they are Trump's core constituency to a T. Which has to do with what? With nothing. And by the way, they're like 57% of them are white. So, it's a little bit more. It's like absolutely, absolutely meaningless. Ruth Marcus in the Washington Post. This is actually a smart one. It says the proof will be in the details of what the Trump administration produces. Still, you don't have to be a DeVos-like conservative to have serious qualms about the existing approach and to bristle at the dismissal of such concerns. All right? Totally reasonable. Christina Cauterucci in Slate. The chilling effect the DeVos Department of Education will have on sexual assault reports will certainly please Trump. But his larger goal is to send a message to women that the government is not on their side. I mean, it's blithering nonsense. So let me end with what I think is the voice of common sense, which is a column that was in the Wall Street Journal today by Jennifer Braceras, a lawyer. It's called Straight Talk for College Women. It says, "Dear female members of the class of 2021, if you follow the news, you've probably heard that 1 in 4 of you will be sexually assaulted on campus before graduation. Don't panic. Your parents did not just drop you and your belongings in a crime zone. Claims of a campus rape crisis are wildly inflated, and a little common sense will go a long way toward keeping you safe. The assertion that nearly a quarter of all college women are sexually assaulted is based on surveys that ask vaguely worded questions about behavior ranging from an unexpected kiss to rape. In analyzing the responses, those who lump all such conduct into a catch-all category of sexual assault deliberately create a false impression in order to promote their view of the campus as a rape culture. The truth is, you are far less likely to be raped than women your age who are not in college. The Justice Department estimates approximately 1 in 53 college women will be victims of rape or sexual assault, an unacceptable number, but hardly an epidemic. Many colleges, she says, have instituted mandatory training sessions aimed at changing cultural attitudes about sex and rape and making sure students are aware of college resources for addressing misconduct. But while such responses may placate gender activists and insulate colleges from legal liability, they do little to keep you safe or punish criminal offenders. Why? Because the college is looking out for itself. They don't want a lot of stories about how they have rapes. So she gives you some advice, and she says that academics and college administrators today operate under the assumption that alcohol-infused sex between virtual strangers is a matter of private choice. She's talking about hookup culture. They fear that any warnings to avoid such risk-fraught encounters will be lambasted as old-fashioned or worse, judgmental, and they live in fear that if they tell the truth about alcohol and hookup culture, they will be accused of blaming the victim. So they refuse to give you the following advice. Do not get drunk and go home with someone you don't know. I mean, every time you say this, they say, well, men can get drunk and, that's right. That's right. They can. You can't. It's just too bad, right? There's safety in numbers. Go out if you're going out for a night of revelry. Stay with friends. Reject the hookup culture. Sex without trust and commitment often ends poorly. It may sound old-fashioned, but it's really common sense. If you don't know someone well and you are unsure whether you can trust him, is it really a smart idea to be alone with him in a state of partial undress? Be self-confident enough to say, it's okay to meet a guy around the keg or at the pong table, but hold out for a real date. You deserve it. Buyer beware. If you do decide to participate in the hookup culture, go in with your eyes open. Promises made in the heat of passion are meaningless. Suitors will promise the moon to get you into bed. I mean, this is just logic, rational advice. Be clear about what you want. If you don't want to do something, say so clearly. You're an adult and you can't expect people to just know what you want. And if you are assaulted, of course, seek immediate help. The funny thing about this advice is a mother in the 1950s would have given it. What has happened is that the voice of reality, the voice of common sense, has been drowned out by the left. The left is the enemy of reality. We were talking about this a little yesterday, that freedom is based on truth, honesty, reality, hard-nosed looks at the facts, and all this spelling of emotion. Oh, I lost the presidency and I had to clean out my closets. DACA has been rescinded and it's cruel. All this appeal to emotion, and it's not like emotion isn't important in your life and living life and all this stuff, but all of this appeal to emotion is really an assault on realism. It's an assault on reality. Women can protect themselves. The campuses are not hotbeds of rape. They are hotbeds of hookup culture, which is just bad for women. It is bad for women. All right.